Do you ever take your cats out on leashes?
Was discussed last night. It's worth a try. I'm excited to try it. We have a porch, and one of our cats really wants to explore it, so stay tuned.
You are blowing my mind right now.
Oh yeah!
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Two Beers with Ritchey, the show where we talk to you about anything bike, all things Ritchey, plus a little something extra. Today's a very special episode, but before we get to how special this episode is, I'd like to talk to you today about today's beer. It has been long rumored that this was the only beer that Jacques Anquetil would drink while doing the Tour de France. Of course, it required a massive effort on his part, maybe some illicit substances, and of course, one liquid in his bottles, Miller High Life. Whew. Today's episode, I'm pleased to introduce our friend of Ritchey, sponsored rider, Ben Frederick. Ben was a former factory rider for Ritchey, now moved over to the Ornot factory team, and currently Ritchey ambassador. Ladies and gentlemen, our friend, Ben Frederick.
Hello.
Ben, it's only appropriate, but what are you enjoying today?
Today I will be enjoying it is the Fresh Squeeze IPA from Deschutes Brewery. A little bit of a cyclocross throwback. This was a present from my teammate Kyle, and it's been waiting for a special occasion, so here we go.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Is it true that Jeremy Powers once received a blood transfusion in the form of Deschutes IPA during a World Cup in France?
Sounds about right.
The answer is yes. Well, let's get to our questions.
Let's do it.
Thank you everyone for writing in. All right, first one. Underbike or overbike? Man, I like when they're really vague like this and it doesn't really have any kind of lead in. I would say that I would always go underbike, right? Like there's something cool about bringing a knife to a gunfight.
Exactly. I think that on the 9 times out of 10 I'm underbiked. Even on, like when I ride a mountain bike on mountain bike trails, it's still like a pretty cross-country-y mountain bike with, narrower tires than are probably appropriate, and maybe even a straight post when you could be on a dropper.
The old high post. Appreciate it. Consensus is underbike.
Underbike.
Here's another one. How do I get bigger thighs? KFC?
Yeah, my teammate Josh says you don't get thick without trying. So it's a concerted effort for sure.
Here we go. This one's probably more for me than you. When will the Ritchey Ultra frame set be available again? So I'm going to put another parentheses here. You might have heard it in our last episode, but supply chain's just ruined right now. I'm sure Ben's feeling this over at Ornot as well, but we're doing our best to get product out to everyone as fast as we can. So the Ultra will be available in the summer. So look forward to that. Oh, here we go. This is from a local, so this is for you. Best gravel route in Boulder.
Oh, I'm fortunate enough to live in North Boulder, and we have these awesome dirt roads around the reservoir. And so within 7 minutes, I'm crunching on that sweet, sweet dirt.
Do you have a favorite loop that you like to do up there?
Yeah, I think taking the Eagle Trail around the res up towards Carter Lake, and there's if you go the backside, we call it Dirty Carter. Tucks into a little valley, kind of winding dirt road. Super cool. Awesome. Yeah.
Are there like levels of gravel, like a category 1, like a hors decor kind of categorization for gravel out there? How does that work?
Yeah, well, speaking of underbiking, there's this thing called the Switzerland Trail, and it's up off the Peak to Peak Highway. And you will, if you ride it, especially on an underbike, you'll get really confused looks from the people on their 4x4s and motorcycles as you're, going down this class 4, class 5 Jeep road. Just, yeah.
I've ridden that trail. It is terrifying, to say the least. What is the main difference between Ritchey Timberwolf and the Ultra? The Timberwolf was designed to be more of a trail bike, so it was built around a 140 fork. It was basically a climbable downhill bike. I would say that it's pretty rowdy. The Ultra is more the way that I describe it as being what cross-country riders think of as enduro, or what enduro riders think of as cross-country. So very, very capable, versatile mountain bike.
Do we get to use the buzzword downcountry hardtail here?
What does that mean?
Your guess is as good as mine, but I feel like that's thrown around like crazy in the industry right now.
I think that's like a dance like the Macarena.
Yeah, do the Macarena and then followed up by the downcountry.
Here's a weird one. Do you ever take your cats out on leashes?
Was discussed last night. It's worth a try. I'm excited to try it. We have a porch, and one of our cats really wants to explore it, so stay tuned.
You are blowing my mind right now. Best options for fitting fenders on a Road Logic disc. I'm not a big fender guy, but I think my favorite is probably the SKS Road one, and attaches to the stays and the fork. Do you have a favorite?
I was going to mention that one.
Oh, boring. That's a weird wording choice. Why you people are so awesome?
It's a great question. Why are you people so awesome, Fergus?
I don't reword any of these to make them make sense. So, thank you. All right, here we go. Back onto bikes. Top 3 favorite bikes.
Well, sponsor plug. This guy right here. This was a podium winning single speed setup, as well as my road setup, custom painted. It says Canty Swiss Cross, death before discs. And then I have a Specialized Epic full suspension, and the reason I like it so much is it has the colorway that I affectionately call sparkle mustard and metal ketchup. And then third one, I'm gonna have to back in the day when I was racing on the road, we got to help Diamondback develop their first foray back into road racing after years and years and years. And so it was the Diamondback Podium Series, first gen Ultegra electronic shifting.
Very bikes.
Yeah, it was sick. Like very down the road geometry wise. It had all the things that you need in a fast road bike, but it just really worked with me, and a lot of good memories.
Well, I'll give you mine. I would say my number one right now is probably my custom Falconer with full Ritchey build.
I didn't know you had one of those.
Oh yeah, I've had it for almost 10 years. A straight up TIG welded steel frame, and it's awesome. It's one of those bikes I just keep coming back to, and I just love it. And also another all-time favorite is also the Swiss Cross for me.
Mm-hmm.
When I was a little Fergus, and I would go into bike shops and look through magazines, the Swiss Cross was always the bike that I wanted. Of course, it's like I couldn't afford it, but getting the job here, it's like first thing I did was get a Swiss Cross.
Sick.
And then my last bike in my top 3 is a Fuji NJS track bike from the mid 80s. It was my first real track bike. It's the bike that, again, I messengered on that. I raced it. I've told people this repeatedly, and now everyone knows this. If and when I die, I'm to be buried with that bike. That it's going
with you. Nice.
Yeah, I've contemplated building it up, being affixed to it as if I'm riding it, and then encased in resin.
Oh yeah.
and then giving it to my nephew, but he said that he didn't want that. So,
well, I mean, that way in 200 years when there's a theme park, they can, drill into the resin and then pull out your DNA, and then you get to turn into, and then, build this whole island of Fergusaurus.
The worst theme park ever. What is the best way to build up a gravel bike? Pretty vague. The thing that I would recommend is not to get too crazy too quick and make something that's a vast departure from what you're normally riding. I would say you want to like start with what's in your comfort zone. So if you ride road, maybe find the same bars you ride on the road and put it on your gravel bike, get used to riding off road. And then if you want to get, a flared bar or whatever, do that. But try to just get used to riding the different terrain first.
Yeah, I feel like, Mr. Ritchie said something along the line is like every bike's a gravel bike. And so it's kind of like, don't make it too complicated. Take your road bike and maybe try riding it on gravel. See how that feels. Because ultimately it will do it. And then anything you do beyond that, whether it's getting a new frame that you can fit a bit bigger tires on or different bars, it's only going to make it a little bit more comfortable. Don't feel like you have to have the perfect setup to go give it a try.
It's too many words for this sentence to make sense, but what are you most looking forward to in what will presumably be a normal race season? How about this? What do you miss about racing?
The shortest and simplest thing is like the post-race hangouts, whether it's like, still kind of kitted up and sweaty and gross, or like going out to dinner somewhere together after and lying about all the crazy stuff that happened in the race.
For the post-race, like, let me tell you about this miraculous thing that I did. Blarney is, that's a very specific thing to racing that I don't think most people get.
Oh yeah, no way. But for me with racing, it's, I have a lot of friends in a lot of different geographic places, and then we all get to hang out on the weekend together. And so like, the racing itself is awesome. It's so fun to like just lose yourself in this, however long event where that's the only thing that matters. But it's the socialization and like catching up with friends, seeing how their lives are, that I've found that is like super, super important to me when it comes to like racing a bike.
I agree. I always think of those early season races as being akin to like coming back to school after summer break. You're kind of asking the same questions and kind of that same like initial giddiness of like seeing everyone and what they're up to.
Yeah. And so and then also, just being able to high five and hug people, that'll be pretty sweet. This is all stuff that has nothing to do with racing as I'm thinking about it, but just like normal life stuff.
I appreciate, because I know that you're like infinitely better at racing than I am, but the things that you and I both appreciate about racing isn't either the ass kicking that I would get or that you would dole out. It's the stuff that happens around it, So this guy's written in before, but here we go. Favorite type of cookie?
Hit me with a straight up like chocolate chip cookie, and I want to see some like flaked text like salt on the top that adds like almost texture.
Wow.
But yeah, if you can nail just a straight up chocolate chip cookie, like I think that's the pinnacle of cookies, and then everything else is kind of just like coming off of that.
I have a horrible sweet tooth, so I try not to eat cookies, but I'll eat anything.
Anything cookie shaped?
Yeah, it's been a problem before. Here we go. Favorite handlebar for riding off road. You know what? I really like our Carbon Stream 2 because it has like this flat section. It's really nice and wide for putting your hands on, and it has like a little bit of compliance so that when you're in the hoods, my fillings don't fall out.
Nice.
How about you?
I think just kind of by default, it's the Evo curve in a 42. I've used that. That's on all my bikes right now. But there was a time when I was running 46 logic curves to try to get, as wide as possible. And this was like before the super flared wide road bar craze. And so like I get it, and I've ridden some flared bars and they definitely have their place, but maybe controversially not as aesthetic, or all around can use it for anything.
Here's a follow-up. How much does handlebar width play into the handling of a bike for you?
For me, that's a really good question. Because I feel like I've been able to, not to flex, but like I've been able to ride any bar. Once you figure out the bar, you can get it around kind of anything. But what I've found is going super wide with that 46 back to a 42, that I appreciate that I can kind of stay a little bit over the front wheel, so that like if I can kind of keep my weight more centered over the contact patch. Whether if I was on a wider bar, that weight is pushing further away from the contact patch, which could have you slide out more. And then there's also just straight up like fitting between either gaps in people or trees or whatever. Like having a little bit more narrow is nice for that.
Would you say it's more application based than anatomy that determines that for you?
Yes, I think so.
I seem to get this one every now and then where someone just writes rim brakes. And then there's like punctuation afterwards of either a question mark or an exclamation point.
All right, which one's this one?
This one's question mark. So my answer is they work. They work. Okay, so this is one for me. So recently you did that video for us about rebuilding your Outback. I wouldn't say it's a parts bin bike, but sometimes, at least for me, some of the more fun bikes I've ridden are bikes I'm like, hey, I still have this frame. I want to put it together. Can you talk to us a bit about, rebuilding that bike after what it had been a while since you've ridden it?
Yeah. And so the previous, so this bike, the Outback Breakaway, has had like 3 lives. It's on its 3rd now, but the first one, back when it first came out, I put a brand new Ultegra 6800 group on it. I got I think they're the Yakamoto hydraulic, cable pulled hydraulic brakes. And so like the idea was like, it's my kind of do it all everything bike. Very traditional, like new bike day. Like I'm really stoked on this. And then it kind of took a little bit of the back seat, and then for the 2019 cross season, it turned into a parts bin bike where I didn't have the budget to get a clutch derailleur, but you can get like the wolf tooth tan pan like cable something or other technical specs, which allows you to run a mountain bike rear derailleur. So I could run one by, and I had broken my rear caliper, so that was it ended up being the TRP Spire, so just a mechanical one. And I realized that after I ordered it that I didn't have the adapter to get a 160 mil rotor, so then I had to order a 140 mil rotor. So it just turned into this whole parts bin bike. And then after that season, it kind of went up into the attic for a bit. I rode some other bikes and ended up just feeling really nostalgic coming into having a year where we couldn't travel. Why not build up a travel bike? And so I do feel very fortunate to have had a sick electronic hydraulic disc brake group set, which was my first time riding that stuff, kind of laying around or available. And so for the sake of nostalgia and kind of the funny idea of building up a travel bike when we can't travel, kind of spawned this project.
Yeah, the electronic group set, building up the bike must have made it really easy, right? You basically just put everything on and away you go.
Yeah. I mean, if you watch the video, I had a buddy build it up because I like to race bikes. I'm not super mechanically minded. And so especially with the hydraulic stuff, it's a little bit outside of what I can do. All Ritchey bikes have externally routed everything. And so like I could build up a mechanical version of whatever, but the idea for a travel bike just to be able to like, take off the derailleur, no problem, no cables, that was pretty appealing to me. And so, it'll take the only 15 minutes to break it up and break it down again and like even cut that in half.
It's kind of an unprecedented time where bikes are more popular than ever, I think. And so with all these new people getting into riding, what would be your top 3 tips for someone that's just rediscovering bikes or just getting into bikes in a post-pandemic world?
Post-pandemic world, I think a really good set of bib shorts is going to go a long way. Just feeling like you don't hate sitting on your bike seat is going to go like a really long way. Outside of that, like something that I've fallen victim to is, and I kind of mentioned it in previous questions, but like not waiting until you have X, whether it's the new frame or the new wheels or the right tire size or whatever, to go do the thing. Just kind of having an open mind and like try the thing, and then if it sticks, keep doing that and optimize for that. But don't, wait until you get the thing, because you might not get the thing and then you never get to try, riding 100 miles to somewhere to camp. Like, you don't need all the bike packing stuff. You just like put it in a backpack, see if you like it. And then you can make the decision whether you like it or you don't like it. Right. And then find people who are doing what you want to do, and then go with them on the stuff. If you can take away the hassle of planning the route or knowing where we're stopping or whatever, you can kind of just like sit back and really be present in the experience and like having fun and taking it in, or knowing that it's actually not as fun as you think it is, and then maybe you can go a different direction.
I don't know if you had any questions for me.
What bike are people most stoked on in the lineup lately?
Oh man, that's easy. It's the Outback.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. When we came out with the Outback, people really gravitated towards it. When we refined it, because we realized like, oh wait, this is actually speaking more towards the type of riding that is authentic to the brand, because it's what Tom rides, and also it's what everyone's really enjoying. It's the Outback. So yeah. Long answer to an easy question is Outback is number 1.
What's your favorite Tom story? Do you have one?
Yeah, I have a lot. I'm trying to think of which ones are okay to tell the public.
And I can tell mine what you think.
Oh, please. Yeah. What's yours?
I have 2. One of them was the first time I got to meet Tom. It was at Sea Otter. It was a come ride with our factory rider and Tom Ritchie and our factory and Tom. So I was showing up for that ride just as stoked as everyone else to show up for that ride and get to ride with Tom. And so, we're going to do on and off road, and it's stuff that he's ridden numerous times. And it was like a really cool, it felt very like a one-off thing. It's not like we just like did the big roads and then kind of came back and like checked the box. He was like, no, let me actually take you on some cool stuff. And he had just built that bike that he rode for the Roika that was coming up. And so not only, you get to ride with him, but like it was an unpainted, you could see the welds. I think he did it with like down tube shifters, and like I was pretty strong at the time, but like, he's pulling away on these climbs, and it was just like this kind of crazy moment. I think that was like the best first impression.
That really is, because not to totally drink the Kool-Aid, but to ride with him is very special. And what you realize is, like you're saying, he really knows a lot about riding, and it's you can tell them some obscure area, like, hey, I was out in Arizona, and he'll be like, oh, did you hit blah, blah, blah trail? It goes off to the right a little bit, and if you stop about 3 miles down, there's a place to get water on the left. Like, how do you know this, dude?
Seriously.
And so that very simple sea otter ride that we did, you know, I'd come up with kind of a rough loop because I was like, well, I don't know who else is going to show up. Let's make it kind of easy. And he goes, no, we're going to do this. And it's like, okay. And so you really got the full Tom experience, which I'm really happy that was your first meeting of Tom. But, you know, and everyone that's worked at Ritchey has some story that they tell you. And if you were to say this about anyone, you'd be like, what? No. But with Tom, it's like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, I'm about out of beer. I don't know. Do you have anything else going on?
Let's see. We're getting vaccinated in our little pod and excited to like go see people. So like encourage people to kind of do their thing so that we can all hang out. So yeah, what's coming up is feeling okay about signing up for some local races. Dream goals down the line, looking at racing some World Cups in cyclocross, because there's going to be a few in America, which is like really exciting and also kind of scary, but also really exciting to kind of have that as a goal. Everything feels so like, it feels weird to even have that as a goal because I haven't really raced since 2019. And so like, who knows if that is even like a plausible thing. Like, where do you stack up in the country or whatever. But outside of that, we got some cool stuff coming out with Ornot. We got some, which is a cycling clothing brand for those who don't know. I'm hoping I can come see you and go for a ride.
Yeah, I would love it. I'm definitely looking forward to everything opening up. Yeah, definitely looking forward to, what is it? What should we call it? The side effects of bike racing and bikes, you know, is hanging out.
Yeah.
And fraternizing and all that. So yeah, that'll be great.
Well, cheers, homie. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you. And so thanks again, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks to Ben for joining us on today's episode. Any questions, please shoot us an email. It's ritcheydesign@ritcheylogic.com. Follow us on the grams, Facebooks, Twitters. It's all at Ritchey Logic. And until next time, we'll catch you then. All right. So long.